Yo. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. We could actually say good morning, and it means good morning.
Good morning to the people who will be watching us today. This is episode 40.
Yes, it is.
And why am I excited, Coach?
Because we're live, Coach. We're
live, baby. We're live, right and direct for the people today. We hope that we get a lot of you joining in, commenting, talking to us in real time. This is the first time for this entire group doing this together as one unit. So we're just going to cross our fingers and hope we all are on our A game as we always are.
Yes, sir.
How was the weekend, Coach?
Awesome, man. You know, I was on my little trip. I got to see Morgan Wallen this past weekend.
Oh, yeah, you was in
Madison,
Cheesehead.
Wisconsin.
You was in Cheesehead country.
A little bit, yeah. There was a good amount of Packer fans, and I was really tempted to whip out the Bears hat, but I'm like, let me not get jumped.
I was going to say, you trying to come back with some lumps and bruises.
Yeah, they respected the Sox hat because they hate the Cubs up there. So
good for them. Those are great people.
Yeah, they're good people up there.
That is good people.
No,
up there.
it was awesome, man. He's a hell of a performer. It was a great weekend.
That's good. Well, I worked all weekend.
There you go.
I'm glad you enjoyed your concert and had a fun time while I was out here just sweating for the people, just working. But yeah, it was a good weekend. I can't really complain. Had a good time with family. Like I said, I think my daughter's graduation was Friday. I told you about that, so that was pretty good. A good weekend. All right, Coach. You ready to get this started?
Let's get right into it, man.
Because there's been a lot of things going on, so let's hurry up and get right into it. Today, we're just going to pod. We're just going to talk coach to coach, bro to bro. Normally, you guys are used to our normal show format where we give you the halftime give and go. We get into our who's cooking and who should stay out the kitchen. But today, we just want to talk about all the things that is happening. And when we do that, you know what it's time for. The halftime conversations. Yes, indeed. All right. Right on top. Let's talk about this, Coach. We have been waiting a little bit of all the NFL offseason. One, to figure out exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to do with Aaron Rodgers, and they finally got him.
Yep. Then
there was speculation that they were going to make more trades, and we were just kind of like, who cares? They got Aaron. That was pretty much the biggest thing they were going to do. But they surprised us. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago? I think it was yesterday.
It was, yep.
Surprised us yesterday and made a trade for Jalen Ramsey from the Miami Dolphins and also their tight end, Jonnu Smith.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling about these Pittsburgh Steelers and making moves to shore up on both sides of the football, offense and defense? How are we feeling about these trades?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it was a great trade for Pittsburgh. I think they really are putting their eggs into one basket for this year.
Man, talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got a guy in Jalen Ramsey that in the past couple of years has kind of been, you could say, degressing a little bit.
Yeah.
You could kind of argue that, but, you know, he's still one of those top premier guys at the cornerback position in the NFL, and you're bringing in a guy like Jonnu Smith who you needed more weapons for Aaron Rodgers on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes.
And I mean, sure, you got to give up a guy in Minkah Fitzpatrick. You know, he's been a Steeler since he came into the league, but I mean, he's also had his rough couple of years these last couple seasons. So it made sense for both parties. Hopefully Minkah has a good time in Miami. Maybe they could get some wins over there with Minkah at safety. But yeah, great move for Pittsburgh. It's going to be exciting to see what they do, but Coach, they're building a retirement home. they got so many guys that are on their way out of the league. It's actually insane.
Yeah, that is a great way to put that. They are building a retirement home because once this season is over with and Aaron Rodgers is going, you have to be thinking that they're blowing things up, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hayward, is Haywood or Hayward?
Hayward.
He'll probably be retiring. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, supposedly this is going to be his last year. Now, you do pick up Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. The idea is that TJ Watt potentially may finally get his deal done now that Minkah has been moved. But TJ Watt is looking to be the most paid player in the NFL outside of quarterbacks. I don't know if necessarily Pittsburgh is really willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know they would want to keep him. but I don't necessarily know if I don't know if that contract is something that Pittsburgh want to do, especially when the future of Pittsburgh is so uncertain about what they're going to become. Because if you believe that this is Aaron Rodgers' last year, are you really saying that you're going to go into the future with Mason Rudolph being the guy at the quarterback position?
I mean, they did draft Will Howard in this past, draft, and
I keep forgetting that guy, and it's not for no accident.
Yeah, I mean, he was a national champion. They did play a tough schedule over there in the Big Ten, but a lot of guys are believers in him, and like yourself, a lot of guys aren't believers in him.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, considering they still have some guys that are going to be there on the roster past this next season.
Yeah.
They did just trade for DK. They got Jonnu Smith. They've got guys up and coming. That offensive line is still pretty young and growing, so maybe they got something cooking there, but yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see what direction Pittsburgh takes after this season, and if all of these moves even help them for this season to even get better than they were last year.
Yeah, because at this point, they're literally doing things in a way to say it's Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, just to relate it to, like, the NBA a little bit, we say the Chicago Bulls are in playing hell. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in wild card hell.
Yes, they have been.
Yeah, they're one and done every year.
They have been the standard for great mediocrity.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about this NBA draft, which has some shocking moments, to be honest. And then had some things that were kind of just like, right on the nose. So obviously, as we all know, Cooper Flag went number 1. Dallas did not proceed to move out the number 1 spot or do any trades, which kind of set the draft off to be, exactly how we all anticipated. Number 2 went to Dylan Harper. That was the thing that I was actually shocked by. I was really believing that the Spurs would try to move that pick and try to get Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics, but they did not. They decided to get Dylan, which you were right about. You spoke about how Dylan Harper would be somebody that they felt could give them what Jaylen Brown gives them on the offensive side of the basketball and the potential thereafter. So,
and if a Jaylen Brown trade were to happen and Stephon Castle were to get shipped off, Dylan Harper just comes in and kind of replaces that role that Stephon Castle was filling.
Because Dylan Harper works as like a combo guard in a way.
Yeah.
He is a good facilitator. So it works out that way. So I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And then you move on. You get Ace Bailey going to the Utah Jazz. People want to speculate that he wasn't happy about that and all these different things.
Ain't no speculating, Coach. He was not happy.
I don't necessarily know if he wasn't happy. I think he just didn't think Utah was going to pick him. I think that's the thing. I think he was excited about being drafted. I think he just had no idea that Utah would be the team that would want him based upon the quote unquote antics that people were trying to say. I think he thought that there was a chance that he could slide because I personally do believe that he wanted to be a Chicago Bull. That's what I personally believe. But it didn't work out that way. Utah saw talent at number 5, which they should have done, and rightfully so. They drafted the best talent that was there. And then you move on. You get Jeremiah Fears, Chicago kid, going to the New Orleans Pelicans.
Such a great pick. And that jersey, is going to be a top
Fears. I'm
jersey,
definitely getting one of those soon. I want to say and reiterate to people that the New Orleans Pelicans is a different situation now that Joe Dumars is down there heading things. This is a guy that built the Detroit Pistons, put them together to a point that they went back to the finals, won a championship, was a top competitor in the East during their time and during their run with Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, and Tayshaun Prince. So he knows what he's doing and he's evaluating and he's saying things. And I kind of like the moves that he's been doing. My only questions with them is just, are you going to keep Zion? And what are you going to do with DeJounte now that you have Jeremiah coming in? So that was my only 2 questions about New Orleans. And then we get to our beloved Chicago Bulls.
Let's talk about it, Coach. Who they take?
Noah Essengay, I think.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I don't want to be a negative Nancy when it comes down to these young men being able to get into the NBA because they've deserved this. They've worked hard, and I don't want to sound like the grumpy old man, like, why are you taking this kid? But I'm going to sound like it. Why are you taking this kid? Like, there's nothing about him that screams he's going to be a superstar. Now, granted, you're at the 12th spot. And arguably, you can say at number 12, it's a crapshoot. You're either going to get somebody good or you're going to get somebody that busts, sure. Right? But it seems like the template for the Chicago Bulls in a lot of these drafts is let's just get guys who are tall, lanky, and we're going to trust that we can develop. That's what they've been saying a lot. That's been the code word. Everybody's been on code in the Bulls franchise when it comes down to media conversations. Develop. Who have you developed? Who?
Dude, ain't nobody.
Who in the last years since Michael Jordan left as the player and development coach for the Chicago Bulls? Who's been developed? Who's been developed?
Ain't nobody. And I don't want to hear anybody arguing that, Derrick Rose was as great as he was and Kobe White's doing what he's doing. They're doing their own work. I don't want to hear nothing about...
Derrick Rose was Derrick Rose. Exactly. Pooh was already Pooh before he got to the Bulls.
Right.
And Kobe has been working with Lethal Shooter in California.
Yeah.
And also Dribble Too Much.
Yep.
That's what he's been doing on his own. It ain't the Chicago Bulls doing anything.
And
every single Bulls player that has been on this team, every single Bulls player that has left, from Tyson Chandler, Tyrese Thomas, Jamal Crawford, Kirk Heinrich, just about anybody that's left the Bulls has went on and done. We just watched Alex Caruso leave us and go win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, the year before he came to us and the year after he left, he's won championships in both of those years. You can't make it up, Coach.
I don't know, man. I just want to, as a Bulls fan, I want to see a championship in my lifetime. I was born when Michael Jordan was winning. I didn't know what I was watching. I can't even tell you that I knew that was Michael Jordan on the court.
Right.
But now I am old enough to watch in real time how bad we are and how much Michael Jordan really changed this franchise. That man by himself has made the Chicago Bulls considerably what we think is a winning franchise by himself. Post and pre-Michael Jordan, we are still looking like the cocaine Bulls because before Michael Jordan, they were trash. And after Michael Jordan, we had a little bit of stint with Derrick Rose. And outside of that, we have been trash.
Yeah, absolute trash.
We might as well be the Sacramento Kings. But it is what it is. I just want to know, what are your thoughts about the draft? How did you like how things went? Danny Wolf going to Brooklyn was a steal to me.
Great pick and, at where it was, yeah.
And the Bulls did not move up to draft Yegor Dimon, which pissed me off. We let him go to Brooklyn as well. And prior to the draft, rumors of Charlotte being willing to move the number 4 pick. And we didn't take advantage of that either. So, look, hey, maybe they're smarter than me, but for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years as a Bulls fan, it just seems like we have gotten worse and worse and worse. It makes me wish that we had Garpax back.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I've been seeing a lot in the media recently, too, on NBA Twitter, that people would rather have Garpax than this current front office, and that's telling something because at the end of Garpax's tenure, everybody wanted him out.
Yes.
They wanted their heads.
Yes.
There was a bounty put on their heads in the city of Chicago. But I do want to get back to the Noah Essengate pick. Now, I understand, I think for a lot of people, it definitely was a head-scratcher of a pick. Who is this kid? I've never seen him play before. He's not playing college ball here in the U.S. like a lot of these other top picks were. It's honestly one of, the first drafts in a while that we've seen actual homegrown college talent being drafted in in the top picks. Like recently, it's been guys from overseas. Like France has had it for the last 3 years, where they've had the number 1 pick. It really changed this year, which was great to see. But with Noah Essengay, again, another French player. I mean, his physicals, his scouting report are very comparable to Giannis's. I think that's kind of what led the Bulls to make that pick. But at the same time, why make that pick and then trade Lonzo for Isaac Okoro? I think that was the weirdest, just not. It wasn't the ideal or smart thing to do.
No, just say what it was. It was dumb as hell.
It was dumb. It was insanely
dumb as hell. Just say it.
Because why? like here's the thing, right? We drafted Modest last year, and we knew the kid had talent. He showed it when he was with the Ignite. He showed it when he was playing in high school on prep schools and all of that. But
I mean, he was projected at one point to be the number 1 pick.
Exactly. Like they were putting him over Cooper at one point. So I mean, we knew the talent he was going to have, and what happened, and what I think ultimately will happen to Noah this year, he ain't getting no playing time at the beginning of the year. Ultimately gets bumped down to the G League to go play with the Windy City Bulls over there in Hoffman Estates.
Yeah.
And then finally comes back for like the second half of the season. But I don't know if that's going to change this year. I think Billy is still going to be Billy, considering, freshly inducted Hall of Fame coach, all of this stuff. They're going to entrust Billy to do what Billy wants to do. The only way you could change a coach from playing the guys he wants, because you can't tell any coach, and no coach will listen to you to purposely lose games. That's not going to happen. What you could do as a GM is take away his ability to win those games. You make it as hard as possible, and that's honestly what the Bulls aren't doing. Like, they're still giving him the players and the guys to still fill those spots. Like, why is Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips still on the team? Because he's going to play those guys over Noah Essengay, because he's more comfortable with him. We know who Billy is as a coach.
They're still on the team because we're developing, coach.
Oh, right. Yeah, like you said, who have we developed? We're not going to develop Noah. Modest was already a talent when he got here. It don't make sense to me.
All I'm going to say is, I'm just going to reiterate that you cannot carbon copy great players. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop believing that because a guy shows the intangibles of another great player that you're just going to project him to be that type of player. That's what we did with Patrick Williams. They were calling him the Paul because they thought he was going to be like Kawhi Leonard. Right? And what did he turn out to be? Absolutely nothing. Now, granted, the Bulls suck at developing, so maybe that's why he sucks. Right?
I honestly, I think it's another case of, if he goes to another franchise, I think he turns out just fine.
Right. If Patrick Williams goes somewhere else and blossoms, that's another case of how the Bulls look stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So every single time we let a young player go and they go somewhere else and blossom, Lauri Markkanen just did it.
Yeah.
He's the last example of somebody that was here. We thought he couldn't blossom, couldn't be, was hurt. He left us and became an all-star.
Yep.
2 years later, and now is the marketing face for the Utah Jazz. But you know what? It is what it is. Like, we could talk about the Bulls all day.
I will say, though, I loved the trade that the Pelicans made to go up to 13
to get
and take Derek Queen.
Yeah,
that was my pick.
Again,
I wanted the Bulls to take Derek Queen so bad.
They're cooking. They're doing
doing a great job.
They're doing a great job. Joe Dumars is doing his thing.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let's finally get into this NBA free agency frenzy, because a lot of things have been going on. But first, I want to remind everybody to follow us on YouTube at the Halftime Pod. We see that everybody is, again, you're liking our shorts, you're commenting in the sections. We're getting all the views that we would like, but it's not translate into the subscription base. So we need you guys to press that bell, subscribe, so that way you can get notified of everything that we do, especially when it's time for us to go live like we are today. But all right, Coach, let's get into this NBA free agency and this frenzy that's going on. First, on top, we got to talk about it because, to me, so far it's the biggest news in free agency. Miles Turner, like I predicted when I said last episode that his days in Indiana was over with, and it was due to his Game 7 performance. And whatever contract he was looking for, which we did find out later, he wanted a deal that he got in Milwaukee, the 4-year 107. He wanted something considerable, or at least comparable from Indiana, and Indiana tried to give him a deal of 3 years, $60 million, like he was Clint Capella,
right,
or Obi Toppin. And that is the reason why he essentially left Indiana, because he felt disrespected. I think the disrespect is how you played in Game 7 when your team needed you the most. If I am the ownership, if I am the GM, I'm sitting you down and saying, you think with the way you played in Game 7 with the championship on the line, after watching Halliburton go down and play through a strain and get an Achilles injury, and you, Obi Toppin, and Nesmith couldn't put together 25 points between all three of you, you think you finna get $25 million from us? Please. You gotta be shitting me. You got to.
Yeah.
No. And I said it. I knew he was going to be out of there. So he's going to Milwaukee. But here's the kicker. Damian Lillard had to get waived by the Milwaukee Bucks in order for Miles Turner to get signed. Now, this is the largest waive in NBA history. He's going to get paid $22 million a year for the next 5 years from Milwaukee to not play for them. Then on top of that, probably go somewhere else and get some more money.
Right, which they're saying Golden State has really been interested.
Golden State is interested, but I think Golden State is interested for a 1-year rental.
Yeah.
Just to allow him to rehab at the crib, in the Bay, back home. And then if he's able to return sometime in March just to be a playoff, part of their playoff push, then I think that's their best case scenario. I don't necessarily think Dame wants to be in Golden State because I don't think he wants to live under Steph's shadow. So the other team that I've been seeing that's really big on trying to get him is the Los Angeles Lakers, and I think
because they're the top destination for every free agent.
Yeah, every free agent wants to be. But my problem with that is you already got LeBron and Luka. I don't see how Dame fits in.
No,
because that's 3 guys that need the ball. Now Dame can play off the ball at times, but we saw that wasn't his greatest strength when he was in Milwaukee with Giannis, and that's why that situation was not as fruitful as many people projected it was going to be when he first got traded there. So I don't see the Lakers as a great destination, and the only reason why I think Golden State is a better fit for him because of 2 reasons. One, Steph is a non-ball dominant superstar. He can dominate the ball, but he doesn't have to be effective. Right. And then secondly, you got a guy in Jimmy Butler who was begging to play with you in Miami, already in Golden State right now. And you're back home. So I think if you're Dame and you just want to do a 1 year to just kind of show and prove that you still got it in you, so that way you can find yourself back into free agency next offseason to get a bigger deal from somewhere else. The Lakers are going to be there because LeBron is going to be gone next year. Or at least his contract is going to be up next year. That's not necessarily saying he's gone. They could re-sign him again. But if I'm Dame, I think Golden State is the better move.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you. I find it interesting on Milwaukee's part making this move. Of course, we'll get into it later, but Brook Lopez also left Milwaukee, so I'm sure they were kind of left scrambling, trying to find that new starting center.
But I think they knew they was going to get Miles,
and I think they
were going to go after him.
Yeah, that probably was the plan going into the offseason period and the start of free agency. But what I find crazy, and I think is a big swing and could end up being a big miss,
right,
is the fact that they're paying Miles Turner the money they are, but with releasing Dame and having to pay him that money, it still cuts into their cap.
No, it doesn't. So when you waive a player, it doesn't hit your salary cap anymore.
No, it doesn't really.
Nope. That's why they were able to go and sign the rest of those guys. You see how after that they started signing guy after guy after guy.
They did make some solid moves.
That's because the wave allows it not to be a part of their quote unquote salary cap for like year to year signings.
They still got to spend the money.
But it's still money that they owe Damian Lillard. So it's like off the books.
Which is crazy because essentially of course the money's going to Dame, but you could argue that Miles Turner essentially costed the Milwaukee Bucks like
$22 million a year additional.
So it ends up being like damn near 50.
Yes.
And that's crazy for a guy like Miles Turner, right?
Yeah. It is what it is.
I guess it is what it is. That's the guy they wanted. I guess that's the guy that Giannis wanted too, but he didn't want Dame to be cut.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I do think that's just more so them just trying to make sure that Giannis doesn't get caught up in the feed of quote unquote being the reason that Dame got waived. I think they wanted to make sure that Giannis wasn't tied to that. So by saying that Giannis is upset and fed up, it makes it seem like this was not a Giannis decision. But if you're asking me, Giannis said get that boy.
You think so?
Hell yeah. He said get that boy up out of here. We ain't gonna do nothing with him. I don't play well with him. We haven't won, and he's still hurt. And we need more guys on this roster to help me right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it ain't gonna be Dame you gonna be worried about. It's gonna be me leaving. I keep trying to tell y'all, if y'all don't put something around me, I will be out the door.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's talk about LeBron really quickly. We don't need to hold on too long to him because, you know, everybody will talk about LeBron and everything else. But LeBron opts into his $52.6 million for 1 year left on his player option for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I don't necessarily know if it means anything, but it could mean something only if he gets traded. Now, my question for you is, do you think he gets traded now, or do you think he's a deadline trade for the Los Angeles Lakers?
Honestly, I think it would be something at the deadline, and then probably signing an extension at that point for another year.
Who would do that?
I don't know. I have no idea because honestly, like
I got a team that might try
to pick up LeBron's contract. You have to give up multiple players or guys that are on bad contracts, and I just don't see there being that much trade value for LeBron. Of course, LeBron is LeBron, but again, the guy's 40 years old. He's on his way out of the league. He's probably got 1 or 2 more years left at most. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably going to be next year that we see a farewell tour from him. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, if you do add a guy like LeBron, there's only one team in my eyes that LeBron would actually want to go to and play with, and there's only one player he wants to play with.
And that is?
He wants to play with Steph. Now, how do they make that work? I have no idea. I don't think they can.
Not happening. It's not happening.
I have no idea.
The only way it happens is if, I don't say it happening, but the only way it happens is if Los Angeles wants either Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, or Draymond Green. They have to want one of those guys, and arguably you might have to package 2 of them, 2 out of those 3, and send them to the Lakers. But if you're the Lakers, Kuminga and Jimmy Butler is pretty much the same, arguably almost the same player. One is just younger. The other one is a veteran. And Draymond is just somebody that could help Luka a lot because he could be a defensive guy for Luka and somebody that can handle the basketball and let Luka play off the ball at times.
Right.
So I can see the Lakers finding some use in Draymond, but I don't necessarily know if that move gets done. And if it does get done and Kuminga is a part of it, it will have to happen this offseason because Golden State, they did sign him to that tender for 7.5.
Right, yeah.
And obviously Kuminga and his agents is waiting for another team to step up to the plate and offer him some type of deal, because if he doesn't, he'll be back in Golden State for 1 more year on $7.5 million. In my opinion, that doesn't help Golden State because you actually need Kuminga to get a good contract so that if you do sign him to it, you can then do a sign and trade to try to get a bigger name player on a better salary. But the team that I think would potentially do it is the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
And the reason why, landing LeBron immediately puts San Antonio in the playoffs. It gives Wemby somebody that's dependable that can find him. LeBron doesn't have to work as hard to be a post guy. He can stay on the perimeter and do his thing. The guys that you would have to give up to the Los Angeles Lakers would be like Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell. Maybe you got to throw in Stephon Castle. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can throw in some more pieces outside of that to get to the Los Angeles Lakers. But I think that might be the road that LeBron tries to travel, because Texas is a state that does not have a state income tax. And if I'm LeBron, I'm trying to go somewhere like that. I'm trying to go somewhere where I can keep a good amount of this money and have a chance to do something special with a guy that everybody believes is going to be the face of the NBA once LeBron retires and Wemby. So that's my projected idea. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. He can end up in Golden State. I do think Steph is somebody that he wants to play with, but I think LeBron already got that taste and achieved it in the Olympics. Also, him and Steph have the same amount of rings. So if they win together, you're still tied with Steph with 5 rings. So I think that's also in the back of his mind a little bit too. But we'll see. All right, let's move on to a guy that I think the Los Angeles Lakers is really mad that they didn't get, and that is Brook Lopez, the former center for the Milwaukee Bucks, but is now the center for the Los Angeles Clippers. I think this is a major blow to the Los Angeles Lakers because I do believe that Brook Lopez was at the top of their list for a guy that they wanted to have at center to play alongside LeBron and Luka, because he offered both LeBron and Luka the perfect type of center. Somebody that can play on the post when you need an easy basket while simultaneously being somebody that can offer you floor spacing with his three-point ability to allow Luka and LeBron to stay in the post. If they ever want to do a pick and roll or pick and pop, he's a perfect center. Him going to the Clippers, though, is slightly confusing because it makes sense, because I think the Clippers also need that with James Harden and Kawhi to offer that space for driving lanes and different things like that. But does that mean Zubac is going to the bench, or are the Clippers looking to trade Zubac? That's what I'm still left to kind of see what's going to happen with that, because if you get Brook, I'm assuming the Clippers is imagining him as their starting center. I don't necessarily believe they're getting Brook and signing him to the deal to be their backup center. I could be wrong. You need depth, but I'm assuming that that's what they want, him to be the starter. I don't know if Zubac takes that pretty well and decides, I don't know if he takes that well about potentially going back to the bench, and maybe that could spark conversations about him wanting to find a new place to be as a starter. What do you see with the Brook Lopez pickup for the Clippers?
I mean, I'll tell you what. I know it might not be the popular opinion that he would go there to be on the bench and come off the bench, but considering the contract he signed, it's 2 years, $18 million. He's making $9 million.
So it's not a lot. Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
So I mean, that's honestly backup center type of money.
It is.
So I could definitely see them just slotting him into that secondary group and trying to have one of the deepest benches in the league.
Okay.
Because we've seen that be kind of a trending. Really start to trend upwards in the NBA. Like, of course, we've had the top heavy teams and all these things, but we saw with OKC even this year, like, yeah, they've had the talent in their starting lineup, but that second group was also very, very talented, and honestly, is why they lost.
Having depth is important.
Exactly. So, I mean, you pick up a guy like Brook Lopez, you slot him in, you got that second group in Los Angeles, that automatically becomes a way better team than they were last year. And they were your dark horse to win the NBA Finals or even go to the Finals. Yeah, so, I mean, I could see them making a run again this year if they're able to stay healthy. I think if Kawhi could actually play a full season, it would do a lot.
It would help them with their seeding.
Exactly. And I think that's the big issue. They need to have a good matchup in the first round in order to be able to make that push in the playoffs. But I ultimately like the move. I'm sure Lakers fans are probably very devastated with this one. As well as the Miles Turner one. I think they really wanted Miles. It was kind of, they were saying how, once free agency opens and if Miles Turner doesn't get an extension right away, he's going to be a Laker. He's going to be a Laker. Yeah. And there he goes to Milwaukee.
I mean, but that's because they both do similar. I mean, they're both similar type of archetype centers between Brook and Miles.
Right. I mean, it's
defend
very
the rim, shoot the three, can take advantage of mismatches on the post at times. Just very, very, very
we
similar.
just see Miles is able to kind of take it off the dribble more
than Brook is.
Yeah, more faster. He's got a quicker first step and things of that nature. But I know Lakers fans wanted Brook too. I know he was a big, big, big miss that the Lakers need. They don't even have Jackson Hayes anymore.
No, I think
they need a center.
So bad. I think now they may end up having to settle in on trying to get DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Which right now everybody is saying is everybody's cautious because of all of the reports that's coming out of Portland about how much of a headache he was and how he was throwing tantrums. And it seems like this seems to be a thing that follows him everywhere he goes. His time in Phoenix, it was seen as very tumultuous. Him and Monty Williams couldn't get on the same page. He was always arguing. He was always bitter. He was always being a baby. Things wasn't going his way, so he would just pout or he would just give up, quit, all type of things. And then that seems like it's carrying on to Portland, the same rumors and reports. So it feels like while he is talented and still can offer you things on the basketball court, his off the court issues and antics is what's keeping teams from immediately attaching themselves to him. I've even seen rumors and speculations about potentially maybe the Bulls even trying to seek opportunities with DeAndre Ayton, which I think is absolutely a big no-no. Not only can we not develop players, but we sure can't deal with attitudes. That there's no player management that exists in the Chicago Bulls. Billy Donovan can't do that. We saw how it went with him and Zach having a slight little tiff and DeMar DeRozan and everything like that. So he can't handle that. And now you want to bring a guy in like DeAndre Ayton, that's not going to work.
No.
So I don't know where DeAndre is going to go, but I think that's the Lakers missing out on Brooke, missing out on Miles, probably not being able to trade for Walker Kessler. It's starting to look very, very thin at the center position. I thought maybe if Daniel Gafford didn't re-sign with the Mavericks that maybe they would have had a chance at him.
Right.
He doesn't give them the same type of versatility that Miles and Brooke gives, but he definitely gives you rim protection and a lob threat that LeBron and Luka can work with on the pick and roll type of thing. But I think for LeBron and Luka, they definitely need a center that can knock down a three-point shot. And maybe that might pivot to Vucevic becoming even more valuable in the offseason or in this particular offseason. Maybe that's where the Bulls finally don't get jerked around in a trade. They finally get something for one of their players, and it ends up being Vucevic, the most unlikely candidate, right? We would have assumed that DeMar, Zach, Alex, even Lonzo possibly could have got you more than Vucevic, but it might turn out that Vucevic ends up being the one player that the Bulls get something of value for.
Right, because keep in mind, out of that, that big four picture that they had with Lonzo, DeMar, Zach, and Vooch,
and Alex.
Right. Out of all those guys, we haven't seen a single first-round pick come back from any
we
of
only
those.
got our first-round pick back.
Yeah, that's it. We haven't seen any new first-round picks come back, which is absolutely insane. But,
all right.
Yeah, I could see Vooch getting moved possibly. I think as this free agency moves on, I think his value starts to increase.
Yeah, and I think it's three teams that could potentially be looking at Vucevic, and I think the three teams are contenders, and that would be either the Lakers, Boston, or Golden State.
Yeah,
I think those are the three teams
Yeah.
that'll be in the Vucevic hunt or looking out to see if they can get Vucevic. But let's continue to move on to some more news in NBA free agency. The Denver Nuggets is making moves, and it started with trading Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson and I believe a first-round pick. They continue with that by bringing back Bruce Brown. And I think did they pick up Tim Hardaway Jr. too?
They picked up Tim Hardaway Jr. and they made another trade sending Dario Saric
to the Sacramento Kings, and they picked Valanciunas to be the backup center for Jokic so that Jokic doesn't have to die on the basketball court and he can finally get a break. So first, let's talk about Denver. Do you like the move of trading MPJ for Cam Johnson? Because I see a lot of people saying like this is the move that Denver has always needed to make. It's a long time coming that they should have traded MPJ, and Cam Johnson is a perfect fit and he's gonna fit in perfectly for Denver, and I want basketball wise it makes sense, right? If you think about the low maintenance of Cam Johnson and his ability to be efficient and his willingness to play a little bit more defense. Basketball-wise, it makes sense. But the threat of MPJ being able to potentially take over a game is a dynamic that I think Denver underutilized, and it feels like now underappreciated. Because Aaron Gordon does not bring that dynamic to their team.
No.
He doesn't bring that the way MPJ does. And then pairing him alongside Cam Johnson, while yes, you think it makes it a more cohesive ball sharing unit, and you have another guy that's off the roster that you don't have to worry about facilitating things for or feeding into their ego and talent, there might come a time where you're going to miss being able to just give a ball to a guy outside of Jokic and Murray and just say, go get us a basket. Cam Johnson ain't that guy, and Aaron Gordon ain't that guy. So what are your thoughts on the moves that Denver has made, and then we'll go to the Brooklyn side with MPJ?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting when it happened. I didn't see it coming. I didn't necessarily believe MPJ was that available. Like, it came like as soon as free agency hit. That was like one of the first moves.
Which also makes me upset because I feel like that's another player that I've said the Bulls should get. Right?
Yeah.
You draft you draft Noah Essengay, and it turns out that MPJ is somebody that you could have just traded Patrick Williams and a first round pick for.
Right.
Potentially. Because Patrick Williams and Cam Johnson is essentially the same player. Low maintenance.
Ooh, you're treading dangerous waters.
They're essentially the same player in configuration and what you're asking for. 3-and-D, shoot the three ball. When Patrick Williams is healthy, he is pretty proficient at being able to knock down 3-point shots.
Yeah.
And he plays good defense. Now, his health is always in question. Cam has had his nicks here and there too. So it's not like Cam has just been Mr. What do they call it? Iron Man. He hasn't been an Iron Man or anything of any sort. He's not like Mikal Bridges. But to me, what I'm saying is it feels like the Bulls yet again missed out on the opportunity to get a guy that we could have just drafted when we had a chance to draft him, but instead we went with Wendell Carter Jr. But we're not going to go back to the Bulls.
No, we're not talking about that.
Yes.
Nope.
But with that being said, the fact that MPJ was available that early and that fast in the free agency period in day one, that does make you wonder, where was other teams in this? It kind of gives like a Luka trade feel, where there was one phone call to one team because this is the guy that we identified that we wanted, and we said Cam and a first for MPJ, and they said cool. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much better it makes Denver making that move. I forget how the contract situation looks. I think Cam is making a little bit less than Michael Porter Jr., which I think allowed them to make these other acquisitions in the free agency. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, if you look at their stats, they average damn near the same thing. They average damn near the same shooting percentages. Like, it's a very similar style, not even style, just a very similar stat line that comes in each and every game. And I mean, maybe Cam Johnson is your guy if you're Denver, so that he's willing to give it that one extra pass and not chuck up some BS ass shot. You know what I mean? When you're trying to feed Jokic, you're trying to feed Murray, you're trying to get Aaron Gordon going. So maybe that's why they make the move. But honestly, it was interesting to me. I don't know if I would have made that move if I was the GM. I like the other moves they made, no doubt. I think the other moves they made, getting Valanciunas, re-signing Bruce Brown,
Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, getting Tim Hardaway. Yeah. I think those are all great moves, and I think it's one last push. I think they know this season coming up is probably going to be their last time actually having this like core group of players. I think Jokic is due for an extension soon, within the next year or two.
I think it's the last year of proving to Jokic that they can be a winning team.
Yeah,
and I
think Jamal Murray might be out the door soon. Yeah. Like, this is probably their last season to prove, like, okay, we could still compete at a very high level. And they're trying to do everything in their power to do that. So
yeah, because I can see Jamal going home to Toronto.
I can see that too.
Because the way that team is set up, that's a perfect team for him to go to and be their starting point guard. Because they have everything but him.
Yep.
And he would be a perfect player at the point guard position. Him, RJ there, Brandon there.
Did you see, by the way, about Toronto, did you see Jakob Poeltl got a 4-year, $100-something million contract?
Look, I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's starting center money.
I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I just know that, unfortunately, God didn't bless me or you to be 7 feet, because clearly that's all it takes to make $100 million.
I guess so, man.
That's all it takes to make $100 million, is being 7 feet tall.
Yep.
All right, but let's go to the side of Brooklyn with MPJ. I love this for Brooklyn.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
I love this. Yeah. Because now we've been trying to find out who's going to be the star. When is Brooklyn going to be able to get their dynamic duo or anything of that nature? And they got it. Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a problem going forward now that you got Yegor being your 6'8" point guard who is just going to come in and facilitate. They do have questions at power forward. They did re-sign Deshaun Sharp. So I think that's going to be their power forward.
Probably.
And then they let D'Angelo Russell go. They still have Nick Claxton. They're still kind of light at the center position, but they can play fast. With MPJ, that gives you additional height that you can utilize to crash boards and block shots from the weak side and different things like that. So Nick Claxton isn't left on an island alone at the center position because Michael Porter, I believe, is 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah.
Yegor is 6'8". Cam Thomas now is your shortest guy at 6'3", 6'4". Yep. And Day'Ron, I think it's either Day'Ron or Deshaun Sharp. He's like 6'8", 6'9", or something like that, somewhere between that. So they have a fairly balanced height team. They can still play fast. They can get up and down the court. I just think the beautiful thing about this is that Brooklyn now has a guy that they can just, outside of Cam Thomas, additionally, that they can give the ball to and say, go get a basket. Go put some points up. Go get some buckets. And I love that for Brooklyn. I love that also for Michael Porter Jr. because now he can turn into the guy that we all projected him to be when he was one of the top recruits in the country, when he was projected to be the number 1 overall pick in his draft prior to the back injury, making him fall all the way to down to Denver at 14 anyway, because he was projected to be a number 1 pick. Yeah. But when the back injury came out and people was concerned about his ability to recover from that, that's how he slipped to Denver. So I think this works out. This is going to work out, in my opinion, in the long term, much better for Brooklyn than it is for Denver.
Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. I think Michael Porter is finally going to be able to show why he was once considered the top overall pick in the draft. There's no stopping, his production now. You've got the playmaker in Igor, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Cam Thomas, who's able to go get a bucket at any given time. Mm-hmm. You've got a great screen setter, rebounder, and defender in Nick Claxton. You just slot an MPJ to take some shots, and that's what he loves to do. He likes to shoot the ball and score. So, I mean, that's what Brooklyn needed, and I think this is just as equally what MPJ needed. Yes. I think he needed to get out of Denver ASAP. Yes. Would have loved if he came to Chicago. I think we could have given him those looks too. Yes. But I'm happy that he's going to Brooklyn, a place that I think will embrace him, and he's going to have an absolute great opportunity to flourish there.
We about to see the MPJ that I always...
Dude, and it's going to pain me.
It's going to pain me.
I loved him in high school. Yes, he was great in college before he got hurt.
Yes, and I just think like... Damn, we just do a terrible job of just missing out on guys. Like, just to think about all the players that we missed out on. We could have had LaMarcus Aldridge back in the day, and we traded him to get Tyrese Thomas. Why? We could have had Tyrese Halliburton, and we decided to get Patrick Williams. Why? We could have had Michael Porter Jr., and we decided to get Wendell Carter Jr. Why? We could have had Queen, but we decided to get Essengay. Why? Again, I don't want to bring this back to the Bulls, but God, every single time I just think about so many players that we could have had in our grasp and on this roster, and just think about like what those players were projected to be and what they became and all these other things. Just like, we are literally the dumbest franchise in all of the NBA.
The only reason why our franchise holds any like credit
is because of this guy behind us.
Because of him and the name Chicago. That's literally it. That's it.
Well, MPJ, I hope you have a great time in Brooklyn. I think you're going to be a star. I think you're going to shine. I think you're going to be awesome, and hopefully, we do what we need to do, or he does what he needs to do in Brooklyn. All right, last but not least, let's talk about Shea. We got to get back to Shea and end it off with the fact The Shea is now going to be, when his extension kicks in, the highest paid player in all of the NBA, averaging $71 million a year.
It's just fucking insane.
I'm just going to let that marinate for a second.
Yep.
$71 million a year to play for the Oklahoma City Thunder. First of all, where are they even finding this money? Because it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, who got money in Oklahoma City like that to be paying this guy $71 million?
I don't know. The guy that probably owns the 3 skyscrapers they have there. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, bro. Like,
but they're giving him $71 million a year when his extension kicks in. And this is exactly what the Dallas Mavericks did not want to face with having Luka on their roster.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep in mind, I want to make sure people understand the reason why SGA is getting paid this much money is because 2 reasons. One, he wasn't drafted by OKC, but when he was traded to OKC, they got his bird rights. So the rights in which was given to the Los Angeles Clippers for drafting him transferred to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, and bird rights essentially lets you go over the cap.
Lets you go over the cap
to re-sign a guy.
Secondly, he's met the requirements. He's been a first-team All-NBA. He's been a league MVP. He's been an All-Star. He's a champion. He's a Western Conference MVP. He's a Finals MVP. Like, he's met all those measurements and requirements to be worthy for a Supermax. But so was Luka. And when you are in a situation, unlike Luka, SGA delivered. When he got to the finals, he delivered.
Yeah.
Right? 7-game series, grueling series, which I do think, by the way, OKC with a loss of Halliburton didn't go down.
Same. Yeah, I think so too.
But yes, I agree. One of our Kyla Hill says it's only because Halliburton got hurt, and that's facts. I want to say though that Los Angeles looked at that and said, "There's no way in hell we're gonna pay this guy $70+ million a year. He doesn't play defense. He's out of shape, and we don't know if he can lead us to a championship." My question to you is, if SGA does not deliver this championship, does OKC give him the Supermax?
Yes, they do.
So you don't think that winning this championship made it we have to do this?
No, they already knew they had to do this.
I'm not sold on that.
I think the reason why they had to do this is because of the player they've seen him become since they traded for him in 2019. Like, the road to where he is now and the amount of improvement he's made year after year after year after year. I mean, we see where he's at now. It's like, how much more can you grow? But it really is like, he can still grow. He still doesn't have a consistent 3-pointer. No. Imagine if he had a consistent 3-pointer. Like, there are still things he could grow within his game that, like, what if he becomes an even more consistent defender? Like, what if he's able to get to his left hand and finish how Jado's been able to this last final series? Like, there's so many things in SGA's game that he could still work on that hasn't even actualized its potential yet.
And I guess they trust his work ethic.
And they trust that because they've seen it over the last 5 years. Yeah. Like, they've seen where they got him in 2019 to where he is now. League MVP, scoring champ, Western Conference MVP, NBA Finals MVP, all of the above.
But I'm saying, let's say he didn't win that.
I think regardless.
Okay, like, let's say SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder, because they were getting bounced in the second round prior to this run.
They lost to Luka last year, right?
So let's say prior to this run, they were getting bounced consistently in the second round. First round, second round, first round, second round. This is the first time that they actually got to the Western Conference Finals, and then obviously won the whole thing, right? So they got to the door, knocked it down, and came in and started partying, right? Let's say they don't do that. Let's say they get bounced in the second round again. You still think they give him the Supermax? You don't think they consider trading him because they go, maybe this is the ceiling that SGA brings us? Because we still have to keep in mind that SGA still wasn't valued as a superstar until this year finished out, right? We're just now finally accepting and giving him the crown of being a superstar because of what he's accomplished this season.
But see, that's why I say, like, even if they did get bounced in the second or in the conference final, like, if he still put up the season he did this year, I think no doubt in my mind he does get the Supermax. Like, because of the way he played throughout the whole season and even during the playoffs, like leading up to the NBA Finals. Like, I mean, crazy statistic, but Halliburton all year shot a certain amount of free throws. SGA had that same amount of free throws just in the playoffs. I mean, we see the guy can get to the free throw line whenever he wants. Like, I mean, he's just able to score the ball at such a high level. And he proved it to us this year. I mean, he was doing it last year. Mm-hmm. Not at the rate that he was doing it this year, but still very efficient, still putting up great stat lines. And he just kept improving it. Like, got even better this year, and I think even next year, I think his numbers still take a jump. Like, I think he gets even better, and I think that's why OKC, and we know Sam Presti is a smart guy, and if he didn't believe that SGA could still improve, I don't think he'd give him the Supermax. Like, I think that's why Nico Harrison moved on from Luka, is because I think he realized the ceiling in Luka. Yeah. He doesn't think there's anything higher than what Luka was able to do in that last season in Dallas.
Well, OKC does, but
and that's not good enough.
Okay, I won't necessarily disagree. I do think like the championship this year has some bearing on it, but I can agree with you and attest to the fact that his work ethic may add a little bit more to it than what Luka's. Obviously, his lack of work ethic clearly is the reason why he was out of Dallas. So I can see that. But we do have a quick halftime interruption that I do want to bring on. The Lakers and Bron are not talking about extensions. They're not having any substantial conversations about giving LeBron James an extension or anything of that nature. That screams that there is a potential trade that the Lakers are trying to get done. Wow. Does that say that to you, or does that just say, hey, he's an old guy, he's retiring?
That says that to me, man, because
Which one? Old guy retiring, or we're thinking about trading him?
We're thinking about trading him, because I think if they just thought he was an old guy retiring, they would have considered the extension just so he could retire in LA. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they know the amount of money he would generate off a farewell tour, like, and all those factors. But I don't know, man. That report does make me think that maybe this trade's coming sooner than we think. Maybe it is going to come before even they get back in the gym with one another. Maybe LeBron shipped off before training camp.
Honestly, I think that's the best thing for the Lakers to do. If you are going to trade him, you should do it before the season, so that way you first of all, you give Luka the key to the house, keys to the vehicle, and then you allow that team to gel and figure out how those pieces that are coming in fit and can play around Luka. Because if you wait to the deadline, now you're asking guys after, pretty much from All-Star to the playoffs to figure it out with Luka, and that may or may not be a very difficult thing to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it after this next season Luka's up for his extension?
Yes.
That's why you do it before the beginning of the season.
Yeah, because you got to prove that you got to prove
what
to
Luka could do.
Yeah, you got to prove to Luka that you can put something around him similar to what Dallas did. Yeah. But then last, you also got to see what Luka can do by himself without LeBron there to decide whether or not you're going to be the one to give him. I think he'll be getting like somewhere 58 to 62 million because he can't get to 70 million.
Yeah, well, whatever his max is after being traded and stuff, that's what he's going to give him.
All right. We want to remind you guys to follow both Coach and myself. You can follow Coach at Coach_KD41. Again, Coach has his AAU Club 3 Point High. If you have any sons that you think are interested in basketball, looking to do things in the summer, get better, get trained, get more developed, please reach out to Coach in his DMs. He's also looking forward to, I believe, possibly next year having a girls AAU team as well.
Yep.
So if you got any daughters that you think are very interested in playing the game, Coach definitely is looking forward to next year to having his first girls AAU team along with the boys that he already has. And then for myself, you can always find me on Instagram giving my hot takes about a lot of different things, my opinions about things that show up either in the NFL, NBA. I'm trying to get a little bit more versed in hockey. So I'm going to reach out to some of my friends who really watch hockey and get some more lessons and tutelage on what I'm watching and what I'm seeing so I can give my opinions on that as well. But you can follow me at Coach M_Got It. And again, you can follow Coach Conrad at Coach_KD41. Coach, what episode is this again?
This is the big 4-0, Coach.
4-0. We have made 40. We are now in our midlife crisis.
Yes, we are.
Hopefully,
that's why we're going live.
That's why we're going live, because we needed something new to do.
Yeah,
we had no money for a Corvette, but what we could do was go live. But we want to thank everybody that's joined, thank everybody that's watched. It's been a great episode, another episode of the Halftime Podcast, episode 40. I'm Coach Malcolm.
And I'm Coach Conrad.
And as always, you know how we go. See red and bear down, baby.